Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Adi Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And today's guest is Velveth Schmitz. Hi, Velveth.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. It's so exciting for me to interview you for this podcast. We're going to have a tremendous conversation. I have a lot of respect for you and what you do and your accomplishments. We met through the AI leadership collaborative. Yes, that's right. So that's how we met. We went to an event together in Austin. So the AI leadership, the AI collaborative, it's a group of people, a group of entrepreneurs that really want to be forward. They're forward thinking in terms of AI, right? And it is based on, Jeff Woods is the one who put it together. It's based on his book, The AI Driven Leader, which is a fabulous book. We'll include a link to it also in the show notes. And we learn a lot and we push ourselves and we think about how we can innovate and how we can move forward in terms of the AI as leaders. And that's one of the things we're going to discuss today. But also there are so many things to discuss because I'm going to read your bio and the listeners.
Oh gosh.
What? One woman doing all of that? How can that be?
Oh.
So you are the CEO of HireBetter.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're bringing a career that spans for-profit, non-profit, and public sectors, including founding The Hen and the Bird and serving as COO of Atlas Renaissance, as well as VP roles at Stalker and Invent. And you're a connector by nature, which is very true. Any room that you walk in just immediately lightens up, and it's like, yes, Velveth is here, and the connections just start flowing. You have twice served as mayor, so we have here, how would you call it, like Mrs. Mayor or
It's usually Madam Mayor.
Madam
Currently,
Mayor,
it's just council member.
No, it's council member, but it's Madam Mayor. Okay, and that's right. It's like in the in the Mission Impossible when they had a woman president, they call it Madam President. That's right. So Madam Mayor, and now you continue as a council member in Rolling Hills Estates, California, after you got elected in 2016 and re-elected in 2020 and 2024, and you basically alternate between that. So that's incredible. And you are a proud UC Berkeley alum and mother of two, and you channels grit and empathy into building communities, scaling businesses, and helping teams thrive. Do you have any free time, Velveth?
First, that's so gracious. And I don't know if you ever feel this way when someone reads your life back to you, you're like, oh, maybe I'm not so shabby. Sometimes I'm difficult on myself. And so those things, I've been very fortunate and really have had a wonderful, adventurous career. So
Absolutely.
I sleep, just a PSA for sleep. I sleep 8 hours a night. So everybody should try and get as much as possible. But yes, ma'am.
I know, it makes a huge difference, right? When that happens, it's like the day is like different, and then you can actually accomplish so much more when you're actually well rested. I agree with that.
And I actually want to take a moment and thank Jeff because he did bring us together. And I do think that the room of the AI collective and the individuals in that room are such next level and uplifting for all of us. I think we learn each time we're together, and it's such a wonderful way to be curious and to grow. I am a lifelong learner by nature, and that room just is so inspiring and energizing for me. And so wonderful people such as yourself have come into my life because of it. And so I'm very grateful.
Thank you. And I feel the same. And We need to also give a shout out to Angela Cota. She's part of that group.
Yes.
And the AI Collective. And she also introduced us, we met, but she also introduced us to as a guest on the podcast. She was a guest on the podcast. So we meet wonderful people that are like-minded, and that is very, very, I'm very fortunate to be part of that group. Absolutely.
Yeah, same.
All right, so now that we know who we're talking with and that you enjoyed the introduction, because I agree, you sometimes have to hear it. You know, by the way, if you would have run it, maybe you did run it through ChatGPT, but sometimes it comes like when you run your bio and it says, oh, you are it will say, Velveth is a powerhouse that has done this and done that, and it gives all these adjectives, and sometimes people just paste it here, and I read it and go like, oh no, I didn't mean to write that.
It's so interesting because my daughters are prolific users of AI LLMs, and so they have trained their LLMs how to talk to them in a very positive and energetic nature. And it's interesting to see the vernacular, because whenever I read something that they have as a result of an inquiry or a prompt that they've run through, it has such sweet humor in there. It cracks me up. And I think, and I asked my older daughter, I said, why do you do that? And she said, oh, we have a relationship and I want to be talked to a certain way. And so I've put boundaries and demanded to be spoken to a certain way. And some of it is the accolades. When she gets answers, it tells her how great she is or how she needs to work on something. And so it's really interesting. The whole journey, I think, for automation and AI. I don't know how you are. I'm an early adopter, just I'm curious by nature. And I don't really have a fear of failure. It takes, I think either I was genetically coded that way, or I'm just, my curiosity overrides it. And probably I have no shame or embarrassment. And so I just try things. And really, AI and automation is something that 2 years ago I got very excited about, dove head first in. And I really need to send a huge shout out to my team who collaboratively has leaned in so excitedly, and it's been awesome. It's been so fun to watch people understand where the technology should live to free us up to do what we do best, which is be with people. And it's really up level how we show up for our clients, for our partners, for each other. It's really been fantastic.
That's amazing. So let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, first of all, let's start with explaining, so what is HireBetter, that you're the CEO of HireBetter. Tell us a little bit about the company.
Thank you. I'm privileged to be at that place where what we like to say, we help good people build great companies. And my personal mission in this life is to help people feel seen and heard. And so what a wonderful way to bring those two things together. We are literally standing with founders, entrepreneurs, CEOs, and listening to them and hearing them, and then standing alongside them as they watch their dreams come true. It's such a privilege and an honor. And so HireBetter is that strategic talent planning firm that is your partner. We come in, we help you assess where you are today, where you need to go. And so lots of people think through the idea of a business plan. I want to know where I'm going to be in 12 months, in 18 months, in 3 years. Very rarely do people then say, and what's the talent map that's going to get us there? Who do we need to hire when? What is it going to cost us? How much is the training time? And when should we start doing that so that we hit everything on all cylinders? That's what HireBetter does. We come in, we help you with that strategic plan, and then we hire those top level talents. What's interesting about what we do is we've done our job if we're curating and bringing you 2 to 3 candidates that you would hire. And so often people are used to saying, oh, I received 30 to 50 to 80 resumes. That is not a recruitment firm doing their job. We should only be bringing you people who align with your mission and vision, people who see the value of your business, people who want to help you grow. And by the way, have the skills and aptitude of what you're looking for. And so that's what HireBetter does. We curate that talent. We are ambassadors of your brand. We are the voice in the marketplace. We bring that talent over to you. And when necessary, we help you retain them. Sometimes that means we take a look at your onboarding, your education. How are you keeping abreast? How is talent being engaged? Do you have a healthy culture? And so we're really holistic when it comes to people.
Right, because it's not just bringing the people, then you have to retain them.
Yes.
And you can have a really good company that has a good mission, that they want to help people, but the way that maybe the culture is not up to where it needs to be. So you can bring good talent, but then you might not be able to attract the talent that you really want because the culture is not up to the mission or the products of that organization.
Yeah. And one of the things that we really take pride in is we will never come to you with a pile of bad news and leave it. So if you are going to engage us, we do a thorough research. What is your culture? What is your brand? How is it received? I don't recommend people do this, but we take long dives into Reddit. It's a very fascinating ecosystem. We learn lots about different employers that way. If we see any red flags, we come back and say, hey, we know that your values and your mission are here. This is how it's being received. And in order for us to ethically pull someone away from a very good, high paying job, we need to make sure where we're placing them says it is who they are, acts as they say they are, and really is experienced that way. And so sometimes we have to take a step back and say, let's work on these pieces of your culture or this people-centric initiatives, these processes. And once you're ready, now you're ready for that top talent, because that's where really the rubber meets the road. Is a lot of people can attract talent, but the real loss is if you cannot retain it, that brain drain, that historical information, that part of replacing someone over and over is so costly, not just to your bottom line, but to the people around also. And it could be damaging to the culture. So those are the things we have to be very cognizant about, because yes, we recruit people, but we want you to retain them. So we also help you do that when you need to.
Absolutely. What would be some of the good strategies or tips that you can give to our listeners in terms of retaining good talent?
So one of the mistakes that people make is we recruited somebody great, we signed the offer letter, we're done. And where we say, oh, no, that is step number one. Now the real work begins. So we ask, what do you do for onboarding? What does onboarding look like for you? What does that mean? What is your first 30, 60, 90-day plan with this individual? How are you co-creating and collaborating on that? What does success look like? What are things that would cause pause? Where do you feel that you are really engaging? Because there is a honeymoon period when someone starts something new where everything's great. And then day in and day out, they have to see and feel. And where we are in time and space right now, it used to be that companies had all the leverage. We could recruit whomever and they'll come here and just be thankful for a job. We have a very savvy employee market. We have very savvy professionals. It is a mutual agreement. And if someone comes to work for your firm, they need to know that just as much as they're investing in you, you're investing in them. What better way to do that than the first 3 months? So really have a look at what does their first day look like? How do you onboard them? What does their first 30 days feel like? How are they integrating into the business? If they are siloed and not cross-pollinating, you're going to have a communications problem. If they are not exposed to holistic business practices, how will they know what their contribution means to your company? So that's critical. The very first thing we say to people is you realize that recruitment starts from hello. The moment we reach out to someone, they should feel your brand, they should feel your mission, they should understand your values, and they should know this is what it's like. That's day one. And then once you sign the letter, that's really critical. Then you need to start with very attention-oriented and purposeful onboarding.
That's for sure. I agree with you. I actually just created a YouTube video for my YouTube channel about onboarding, because we address it from, you have to have well-documented processes, procedures, playbooks, and manuals, because to execute that onboarding process, you have to refer them to something, you have to refer them to the on-job description and position. understand what they're having to do with good processes and procedures documented, but also to your point, which I don't hear a lot of people say, and I totally agree, is that you have to understand the rest of the organization as well. So you don't just silo them. So if you have the documented processes and procedures for the rest of the organization, you have to have them understand they may not need to learn all the jobs, but they have to understand what the rest of the organization is doing in order to actually match and understand. And as you said, making sure that what they're producing is actually valuable to the rest of the group, because otherwise they can be doing things and it's really not valuable and it's a waste of time for everyone.
Right. And I think that's one of the key things that psychologically seems so simple, but really is a complex thing to understand. If I, as a member of the team, understand what my contribution means to the team and the ripple effects it has on it, and if every member understands that, we understand the connectivity of the business, we thrive together. If I know that when I do A, B, and C, that affects 3 departments over, maybe 3 weeks later, 2 weeks later, I'm now seeing the full picture and I'm more bought in. I know that my work is critical, it matters, and it also sets my colleagues up for success. In turn, if my colleagues see my contribution as vital and my contribution precedes what they need to do, that collaboration is critical. We are all helping each other rise. And I think that, I was fortunate enough, I played sports my whole life and played lacrosse in college, and I had really excellent coaching. And that coaching really taught us how the entire field worked together. And the fact that, yes, the goalie may have started the play with throwing the ball to the initial player, but every subsequent move and event led to a goal, led to a win. And that kind of thinking helped me to sort of 3-dimensionalize everything, to believe, wait, if we all are making an effort and that has a ripple effect, imagine if we're all doing it in the same direction with the same ethos and goal in mind. Unstoppable.
Absolutely. And it's a great example in terms of the sports team, because when you are hiring right now, it's like recruiting to a really good sports team, but they can advertise that they are and they are winning and all that. But then if the culture is not there, you won't be able to be part, like the person you're recruiting is not going to fit into that team,
Right.
and it's just not going to work.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and there's a sticky inflection point that happens when the people who started the firm and help you get to a certain place aren't necessarily the people who get you to the next tranche. And that tension, being able to really continue the buy-in from a legacy employee and then accept new talent that's also going to help you grow, that requires emotional intelligence at the leadership level of being grateful for what's been built and challenging to get out of. Just because we've always done it that way doesn't mean we continue to do it, and bringing in that fresh perspective. When leaders are able to be comfortable with that and then can espouse that layers below, it's incredible, because you have the institutional knowledge with the fresh take on things. And that's really where you see companies take off, when those two things can come together and be harmonious. It's super fun.
Absolutely. So, we are both should I say obsessed with AI, or we're into AI.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, basically, like you said, like an early adapter, or being at the front of understanding what is out there and how to actually utilize it, right? What can my AI do for me? How can my AI help me? Which is one of Jeff Wood's favorite sayings. We look at that. And yesterday I had a great conversation on the podcast with Cameron Herold, and we talked about AI and how AI affects coaching and what is his view of how to utilize AI and how we can help. He helps second in commands, and he's also known as the CEO whisperer. How does he help his clients integrate and use AI, or basically get the idea? I mean, basically buy into the idea that AI is here and to stay, right? And we talked about adaptability, adapting, how he helps his clients adapt to that idea, and how can they to stay relevant. So I know you definitely implement it in your company. We'll talk about that. But what about your clients? Like when you work with clients, do you also recommend or help them move forward with AI? Because you can have a candidate. Basically, the question is like, do you have to have compatibility in terms of the candidate knowledge of AI and the company where it is with AI in order for them to be compatible and increase retention?
That's such a great question. And I'll tell you, we're at an interesting place because, as you and I know, being early adopters, there are positions now that I know need to exist that people don't do. And to recruit and build that is really fascinating. And so on the side, sometimes if I know you personally and you'd like some help, I will do that. If I have a moment. I'm trying to learn boundaries, as my children say, that I need to be better about my work-life balance. So I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, and our conversation started months ago. And for a variety of reasons, I'm helping this person. And we did a full look into their current skills and talents, what they're looking to do, and what it means. And I had challenged them to really look into automation, AI, and what they knew. And they knew nothing at the time. Our conversation has evolved so deep and so nuanced that yesterday's conversation was something that goes along with your question, which is they have come to the realization that the thing they want to do does not exist. And so it won't be effective to look for this job for them because it doesn't exist. Nobody has it. So they have to reverse engineer their position and say, here's what I know, here's how I know it, and this is what I could do for you. Do you have this person? And so let's say we're going to call them an AI architect, or let's say we're going to call them a strategist. Whatever the term is, there's a double layer there, right? First, we as business owners, as leaders, as founders, as CEOs, entrepreneurs, need to understand the power of this technology and how we would use it. Second, we need to understand who do we need in what seats to execute on these things. And then third, where are we going to find that talent? And so this individual has some learnings, but can't go too far out because this technology is quantum leaping so fast. And so it was a fascinating conversation about, you're ready to meet this moment. Many of the companies won't even know what you're talking about. How are you going to educate them? And I think you and I have discovered that we are doing things, and my team really has wholeheartedly embraced this, that we've gotten to these iterations where we know the runway for certain processes, procedures that are obsolete, and we're concurrently building what's going to replace it because that's how fast it's coming. So every place around the company, we have a 2.0 version, a 3.0. We even have a HireBetter 2.0. We have a HireBetter 3.0. We've worked through all these things, and concurrently, while we're conducting business, we're also developing this so that when this fades, the new thing slots in and so forth. That kind of architecture thinking, we need to start having more sophisticated conversations about the things we do and how we do them, because this is going to happen, and it's happening faster than I think most of us thought. And we really do link arms with our clients. And when a CEO comes in and will say, we need XYZ, and we think, oh, you used to need that. And they'll say, what are you talking about? We'll say, well, tell me what you're doing. And then we'll talk through a process. And we said, well, where do you think is the most important part for your people to live? Well, here and here and here. Great. And so these other things, oh, I mean, I guess they don't need to write that down. They could automate that. Okay, what if you could build something to automate a repeated procedure and make it an efficient process so that the people aren't spending time there, they're spending time where you think it's valuable. Now you've Wait, you can do that? Yes, you can do that. So how are you using this? So now, not only are we looking at their current processes and what they're doing, we've now up-leveled what they're doing and who they're going to recruit. And that difference stacked upon each other ends up being not just a 1x, it ends up being 10x. This is how you work better, faster, because instead of changing one thing, you're changing all of these things, which are going to elevate the entire firm. And so
Absolutely.
that's
Yeah,
the exciting part.
And that was also my question is, I know, it will be best for entrepreneurs to contact you when they want a plan, not necessarily when they need, oh, I need somebody today. No, let's make a plan of who you're going to hire. And the plan can change because, and it changes so fast because I might have needed an analyst yesterday, but tomorrow I won't need it anymore because I can have an AI agent. But on the other hand, I will need talent to do different things. So I think it's really a matter of, we none of us have a crystal ball. We don't know what's going to happen, but it's not like people are going to now disappear and we won't need people. Right. It's just like, again, that analogy has been used so many times, but the horse and carriage and the automobile. So it doesn't mean that those people that were driving the carriage or they were, we didn't need that profession, but it's not like the people stop doing things. They just need to adapt to new things and really create those jobs and create that work that will elevate people. And that's why people have to learn and adapt.
Yes. Well, I'm of a certain age, so this may, depending on the age of your audience, it may fall flat. But I remember a time when someone told me about text messaging. And I thought, why would I do that? Why would I text somebody? Because the modes of communication were such that you were in person, you called. Why would I do? I don't understand how we could exist now without such a medium. I really
I cannot remember, well, it will age me. It will definitely tell my age as well, but driving without a GPS. Okay, so how did we do? I was thinking, how did I even back to the 90s? Okay, how did I get from this point to that point in a car in a city that I didn't know?
Right.
How did I do that? Yeah, we would go to AAA and get all the maps and ahead of time and right.
And
I would write my instructions.
Oh, me too. I was just going to say that because if you ever used a Thomas guide, so here in Los Angeles, the Thomas guide was essential because Los Angeles is a real
gridlock,
a lot of small neighborhoods that are in different places. It's not grid like New York or beltways. It's a very a lot flies. So you really need to know. But if you remember the Thomas guide, it wasn't sensical because you would be on page 3, but if you needed to keep going straight, you might have to jump to page 78. You had to know the system for how this, and then you had to write it down. There was no smart anything to be able to take you. So it's like that. And I know those sound like rudimentary examples, but if you think about this in the same vein that we thought that, this is another tool that we can master and use to help us arrive at our highest and best use and take away the things that are really time suckers, that are mundane tasks or things where our creativity, our imagination, our passion, and our best and highest use aren't really warranted there. So if we can have something to make that quicker and faster, that frees us up to do the things we're meant to be doing.
That's exactly right. And I think the words you use are so true as we can also use the imagination in order to imagine what else can we do. If right now I had 3 more hours in a day, what would I do?
Yeah.
So in the past, the hours that it took me, let's say, to write the instruction, to look at this page and that page, and now I don't even look ahead of, I just get in the car and I put on the GPS. Probably should look, sometimes I go, you know what, I should have looked before, but no, I just go and that's it.
Yeah.
And that is okay, so right there, it's probably an hour. Just not, but what it allows you, it allows you to take on more because now you can schedule 3 meetings and you don't have to worry about how am I going to get there, right? Or you can do so much more, and that imagination and the passion that you have for things, that is really that's a motivation for the future. And
and it's almost full circle. One of my favorite times is existentialism. And I really love Thoreau and just a lot of pondering with nature. And so if you think about it, during the time that existentialism was really coming to fruition, only people with a certain amount of wealth or amassed wealth were allowed to contemplate, to think, to ponder nature, to sit beside Walden Pond to say, oh, look at the leaves and their beauty and what might that mean for our existence. You had to have a certain amount of privilege to do that. If you think about our lives today, if you're effectively using tools, you are freeing up your time. So regardless of what class or access or status you have, you too can create time where you can sit and ponder, where you can sit and stare at a forest during fall foliage near a lake and imagine the creativity that that might spark. Imagine the way that you could be an inventor, a critical thinker, because you've created this time to allow your brain to think and develop. That's exciting.
That is very exciting, very exciting. And that's really, it gives you a goal. You know, like when we start a project with a client, we always ask why. Why do you want to document? Why do you want your processes? The same thing here is like, why would you implement AI? Not because you heard about it, but what motivates you? And if you look at the end goal, but really look at it in terms of, oh, I'm going to have more time for what? Why? Yeah. Oh, because then I can do this, and that, or I can expand my business, so I can learn new things, or I can travel, or I can imagine, or I can whatever. That is that you get motivated to learn more and more and accomplish that. Yeah. And sometimes people like the process itself. You know, you like the learning of the new tool, the win of actually implementing something. That's fine. That's okay. You know, that's as well. That's the goal then. It's to know for the sake of knowing and accomplishing something new and exciting. That's totally good as well.
Exactly. I mean, I am a Jeopardy nerd, so I just love knowing for the sake of knowing.
That's right. Okay, good to know. So we're not going to try Jeopardy against Velveth because you know what's going to happen. That's right.
I really like it.
So Velveth, let's talk you as Madam Mayor. You know, it's like it takes a lot to, and it's very admirable to be willing to serve in a public sector and being exposed to the, you know, just basically now you are there and you have that responsibility, and, you know, people will criticize you or would love you, or, you know, you are definitely putting yourself out there in a ways that is totally different than the private sector, and it's serving the community. What motivated you to do that?
That's a great question. I come from a very philanthropic family, and from a young age, the questions were asked, can you give of your time or can you give of your treasure? And early on in my career and life, I couldn't give of treasure because I didn't have any. I was starting out, and so I had time. And I've always wanted to give back. One of the things that I loved when I moved to my community is the way that business thrived with the respect for open space and land, and the ability to really have the kind of life that I was fortunate enough to grow up with. Thriving school district, great libraries, really good infrastructure, thoughtful planning. And so I saw this community as something that I really wanted to treasure. And I grew up in California. I know that around the country, California gets a bad rap. I love this state. I love everything that was provided to me. When I was in high school, I could go from surfing in the morning to snowboarding by noon. I could go to the desert if I wanted to, or hike the mountains, and all within the ability to go see a theater show, a concert, an opera, and visit an art gallery. I love what this entire state has to offer. I loved the cities that I grew up in, and I wanted to give back. And so I started the way that I usually start is I try join a committee or something low level where I'm really learning one aspect of it, and then I slowly build. So around 20 years ago, I started in the Environmental Advisory Committee. I was fortunate enough that every step of the way, there was a mentor who wanted to teach me this is what it'll take to go to the next thing. And then I had their mentorship and was able to learn it, ascend it, and then so on. In my third year of the Planning Commission, when I was chairing it, a former council member approached me and said, you have a finance background. There's things here that you are really good at, and I think you'd be great for city council. And I said, wow, that's very flattering. And why would you even vote for me? And he said, you have integrity. You do what you say and you say what you do. And you have a compassion towards people and really listening. And what this job is having people feel heard and then creating policy to be able to help execute. Now, we're fortunate. We have an incredible staff in our city, and it's councils before us have been very judicious with how they have run the entire city. So we're fortunate to have a healthy budget and all of the things. It really was a dream to be on the ballot and to serve and then be elected. Public sector is so different from private, and there is just the way that you handle money, how you report it, what you do, which entities have a voice, and who is really the person that has the authority. There's so much collaboration and working, and I think it's so easy to get to a place of cynicism and dismissal, and yet we are living proof. Our city is proof of we are nonpartisan. We all work for the benefit of our residents. We have thriving outdoor space parks. We have over 20 miles of horse trails. We have a thriving business district where we support businesses. We are very fortunate to have a really good library and school district. And all of those things are possible. We may not agree on everything, but we discuss. We actually tell each other what we disagree about and then come to consensus about what's best for all of us. Who wouldn't want to be a part of that? So it has been a dream, and actually, I think in all fairness, I'm the lucky one. This is I really have been the recipient of wonderful things because of this.
That's incredible. But it's like what you said about the culture and bringing somebody into the culture and the retention. So you definitely match that culture and enhanced it and made it even better. So it is a combination of work of everyone together. So you're right, it's the group, but it's you leading the group, and it's fantastic. And it's one thing to sit and look and be a spectator and say, oh, I don't like that, or I don't like that. And it's totally a different thing to take that responsibility like you did and actually step in. Mm. And it's true. It's like, what do you give? You give your treasure, your time. It's not easy to give treasure, but it's definitely harder to give your time, because it's easier to write a check than to actually find the time and take the responsibility and do what is needed to be done.
Well, and now an added responsibility is it's also my turn to begin mentoring and recruiting people who will succeed my position, people who will come in. And so I've been very privileged to meet some wonderful people, and residents around our city will always say, oh, you're trying to recruit. And oh, yes, I am. Yes, I am. At every moment, it's my job to mentor, to bring people up and to say, you too, come on, we're going to do this. And so that part's really fun too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Velveth, we can cover so much more about your life and what you do, which is absolutely incredible. So, but if people want to know more, they want to connect to you, they want to find more about HireBetter, about you, about your life, how can they do that?
Thank you for that opportunity. So I am on LinkedIn. Please reach out and connect there. Our website is HireBetter, HireBetter.com, and that has all of our information. And I'm out there really. It's pretty easy to get a hold of me. I don't think I'm mysterious, although people say, well, you're not really active on any other platforms, and I'm not. I have a family who's global. And so trying to stay on all the different things to keep in touch with all my cousins is overwhelming enough. So really, LinkedIn is the place that I live socially and where people can find. And anyone on our team, we have a lot of rock stars. So even on the website, if you reach out, you will find all of us.
That's fantastic. Velveth, thank you so much for being a guest on this podcast. It's been great. A very intriguing conversation, and we covered a lot. So thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for all you do and for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.